Hello and welcome to the Resilient Kid podcast with me, Ashley Costello, psychotherapist of the Resilient Kid, author, podcaster, you name it, if you follow me for a while, you know exactly who I am and what I'm doing here. So today, very excitingly, I have got the first of our season 2 real life examples. And this is a parent, and I'm going to more and more invite parents on. So some of the stuff that I talk about, I'm going to invite parents on who have put this into practice, for good or for bad, but to give it a go and see how it's impacted their family and, if it's worked for them. So today we're talking about the family pot. And I'm going to introduce our guest first, and we'll do a little recap of the family pot. But in the last episode, we talked all about it. And so I thought it was really cool because this parent reached out to me and said, I've been using it with my boys. And so I thought, let's get her on the podcast. So without further ado, Amy, welcome to the Resilient Kid podcast.
Thank you, Ashley. Hi.
You're welcome here. I've known you quite a while. You have read the book, you have we've had chats about your boys, and what I love about you, Amy, is because quite often I will either do sessions with parents or have just a brief conversation with people, and then you never kind of know. And Amy's amazing at dropping me little messages and going, guess what, I tried this with the boys and it's really worked, or guess what, I tried this, you're not going to believe what and I love it because I get as excited as you do when they're making progress. So welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Ashley. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about your family setup.
Yeah, so just going back a little bit, you and I met maybe a couple of years ago now. Really in the fact that I don't find parenting natural. I don't find it easy at all. I don't think anybody finds it easy, but I always like to have resources and people around me that can guide me and point me in the right direction. So my setup at the moment is I'm married. I have 2 boys, one's 15, one's 12. So they're both at high school. So we've just been through that whole transition from primary to high school. So luckily year 7 went okay, which is great. But it's very, very different to my childhood, and I think that's probably where I struggle. So I was brought up by a single parent, my mum. My dad tragically died when I was 3 and he was 31. So my mum brought us up, and I lived in a family of girls. So it was me, my sister, and my mum. So now I find myself with 2 boys and a husband, and it's very, very different. It's very different times now. I never had a mobile phone till I was about 20, all things like that, really. So it's parenting's different, but also boys, girls, and also finding out the role of a dad, because I didn't have that growing up. So when I was married and my husband became a father, I started to have to learn at the age of 27, 28, what a dad did, and that it was okay to delegate, and it was okay that that was a daddy thing to do. And I'm still learning day to day that, yeah, that's a daddy thing. They can go off to the gym or whatever. I don't have to be there all the time. So where I met you, Ashley, was we had a family meeting, and a lot of it was we had a family meeting with yourself, really down to lockdown. So during lockdown, my eldest son was year 7 at high school, and he only had a few months there and it was lockdown. Year 8, again, same thing, lockdown. Year 9 was his first full year at high school. So he's missed out on 2 years of, and I don't mean academic wise, because there I think, he's caught up and everything's fine. Social wise, mental health wise, friendship wise. So actually it's only now in year 11, he's going to be going into year 11 in September. He's nearly 16, and it's only now that he's socializing, where I would have liked to have seen that a lot earlier. So I came to you really asking for, what do we do? At this age, I was going out, but obviously it's different times now. Mobile phones, online gaming, but also lockdown. And I think you were there to support us as a family, to make sure that we knew it was okay. It's all right. We're not breaking them. But also just to give us a few tips and tricks to use, which we totally have, and we've totally, had fantastic results from.
I think there's a few things there. I think the first thing you said is like parenting doesn't come natural to me. And I think we have this perception, particularly as mums, as women, that it's, oh, once the baby arrives, you'll feel it all, you'll know what to do and all that. And actually, that's not true. And it is hard work at times. It's really hard work. And I had a conversation with a parent yesterday where she'd got to that stage, and that she was seeing loads of improvement, that she was really, really pleased with how well she'd done. And then she went on holiday and it all went to pot. And I said to her, why is that? And she went, because I thought I could relax. I thought I was on holiday as a parent, and I realized you don't really have a holiday. You can have a nice time, but it doesn't mean to say that you can suddenly take 2 weeks off parenting, because you just can't, can you? So I think what you said there about it often doesn't come natural, and I think that is so true. And I think, the other thing is that it's hard, and that's really something, that we need to acknowledge more and just be more aware of, and make it normal. This is a hard job. This is it's a,
It is,
I say for me, I've been doing this over 25 years. I've seen thousands upon thousands of kids over the years. And the hardest job I ever have to do, and despite court cases and things that I've had to support kids and parents with, and, really some horrific stuff, the hardest bit is my kids and my job, doing my kids, because they push your buttons, and yeah, so it is definitely, I'm really glad that you mentioned that. And I think the other thing as well is that, there's some single mums out there. There's a lot of or single parents that are doing amazing job, and absolutely hats off to them. But actually, we don't recognize that actually when those kids grow up and have a form of partnership, suddenly they haven't always got that other side to go, what do you do? What's my role? How do we co-parent? Because you've had the model of mom through obviously tragic circumstances, and she's obviously like it's been, she's done a fantastic job, but actually you've not had that, oh, how do I split this responsibility, because mum had it all for you girls.
Yeah, and it is a very, very empowering role model to have, a single parent, whether it's a dad or a mum. In my case, mum. Very, very empowering to see her doing everything, mowing the lawns to baking a cake. It literally was everything in the house was her role. But like you say, when I was that age, we didn't have any counselling. There wasn't anything set up in place for us to cope with that. So skip forward, I meet my husband, we get engaged, we get married. And, I've never lived with a man before. It's things like that, because I grew up in a house of girls. Everything was girls.
And now
and I had my granddad. He was a great, and now I'm surrounded by boys. So you can tell that, I'm definitely a fish out of water, and that's definitely why I read all of your books and all of your emails that come through, because anything that you can tell me. And it's also interesting. So everything about me up until children was career. So it was about the career and about the money and getting a good job. Traveled the world with my husband. So that was great. But when it came down to children, this was a brand new concept. Brand new. I'd never held a baby. And actually, quite interestingly, the only book me and my husband read about babies was the NHS books that they give you at the hospital. And it's a purple book. And it's literally step 1, do this, step 2, do that, because it is the most easiest and straightforward book. I've just been reading some of your Amazon reviews of your book, Parents Guide to Raising a Resilient Kid. And somebody on there has actually put the same thing. It's overwhelming. I don't have time to sit at night and sift through 10 Annabelle Carmel books to look at what I should be feeding my baby, whereas the NHS book is literally, you need to do this. And that's exactly what some people need, is just simple, straightforward. but fact, very, factual. Obviously, we don't want any misnomers in there. But I've just found it so overwhelming with all the books and all the information, and there's so much going on. You don't have the time to do that. So that's why I kind of, a newsletter a week from you is like, right, yes, that's what I'll do. It's bite size, it's manageable, it's understandable, it's relatable.
Cool. And that's kind of my view in writing the book, was more to, I was getting, there is only one of me. I do have somebody who helps me with the therapy side, but actually to be able to reach parents who might not be able to afford, one-on-one therapy for their kids, or a one-on-one meeting with their family. And I must just say that the well-being, kind of, we call it a well-being check-in family meeting that you had with all your boys. And it was really funny because that's the first time that the kids have been on camera as well with me. And we had, I've often done it with parents. I've sometimes done it with kids in the room, but I think it was in the second lockdown, and we were all on Zoom, weren't we? And your boys were there. And at first they were kind of like, what am I doing here? Mum's making me do this. I'm not really sure what I'm here. And I kind of was like, right, guys, I need to speak to you. And I think, I'd introduce myself to you and your hubby, and then talk to the boys. And I think they were a bit like, oh, we get a say in this. And it was just so lovely because, they weren't like interacting that much. But then when they realized this, they had a say, and actually they wanted some change as well. They were so cool. And they've really, and that's what I love about your little updates, is I get to see how the boys are progressing. Your eldest, as you say, is coming up to year 11. That's amazing. So I feel like I've watched them grow, but also you guys as a family as well. And I think that's my biggest thing about writing the book. It wasn't really ever on my list. It wasn't something I felt, oh yeah, I really want to write a book. It was more of I felt compelled, I had to just give very easy, practical, sound advice based on my experience and science and things like that. But just to wade through some of the rubbish that's out there, to go, do you know what? If this is what's happening, try this, and just make it very down to earth. So yeah.
And it really is. It's so relatable. But I've put in my review, and I'll tell you in the podcast. It's funny, it's engaging, it's an easy read. And don't buy that. Please don't take that as easy content. It isn't easy content. It flows really, really well, and it's just the right amount of information that you need. And I've got it here. I use it as my Bible, so at any point I can just flick to the back, the index, and go, right, I need to know about exercise. So I'll read that chapter. So it is that. I think the other thing I was going to say was, funny story about my eldest. He wouldn't go to the shop by himself, and I'm sure this is lockdown. We used to watch the news together, and again, was that a good thing? Was that a bad thing? With the government telling you must not go outside, and children like rules, they like boundaries. This is something else that you've spoken of, and they're not going to go outside. So when I took them to a park when we could, they were petrified. You could see it in their eyes. They were petrified. They did not want to go. They were like limpets on me. They did not want to go off. And I said, okay, we'll walk round and we'll go home. None of us felt comfortable. So when he did finally go to the shop, and it was out of his own need, by the way, that he needed something, and I said, no, I'm not going for you, because it was a chocolate bar or something like that. And he went, and I messaged you straight away and said, he's done it. He's done it. He's gone. And because it is a massive, massive thing, I could tell anybody now, in the street, my son's just been to the shop and bought a chocolate bar. In itself, it doesn't sound anything, but in our family, it's massive. So if I'm cooking a big dinner and I've forgotten something, oh, we've got no gravy. Can you just nip? You're 14, nearly 15. The shop's literally next door to us. No, I won't go. So actually, it's a bit of an inconvenience, but also, again, relating back to my childhood, at 14, 15, I was doing a meal for the whole family, and the cleaning and the washing. So again, it's, I guess we move on nicely to the family pot and what we put in and what we can take out. And I had a chat with you about the family pot, and then I also re-listened to the podcast of the family pot, and I've
So,
relayed it to my boys.
so that's a perfect segue. Honestly, just true transparency. Amy is not on commission. She is not being paid to promote my book or the podcast. She is just a parent that we have been in touch with. So, but on that note, perfect segue into the family pot. So the last episode was all about the family pot and how it's really great for kids, but as a family, to understand what it takes really to to keep a family going. And the way I look at it is you can either put in the pot financially, you can put in the pot emotionally, or you can put in the pot practically. So for instance, financially, it might be you and your hubby putting in your wages, which contribute to the house and the heating and holidays and all that kind of thing. It can also be around practical things like going to the shop or putting in some washing or making a dinner, like you said, Amy, you did, as a kid for your family. But also as well, emotionally, it can be putting in the pot. So that might be anything from, mum's not well, let me look after her. It can be stuff like a text, how are you, mum? How are you guys? Things like that. It can be, I've been on very lengthy calls sometimes or on conferences, and I've had like a little cup of tea sneak in. It's things like that that just contribute emotionally. And I always say, don't underestimate how kids financially can contribute to the pot. And I'm not saying let's send them out to the coal mines. I'm saying I know that if I'm working, I can earn more money than they can if they were doing a paper round or a Saturday job. So there's actually times when my eldest, who is just a year above your eldest, I think, Amy, she's on a longer summer. So today she cleaned the room that I'm in. She cleaned it all up, tidied all my papers, things like that, while I was out doing something, which means that I'm then not having to do that and I can work longer, or I can spend time because I've got more energy and more capacity to spend time with the family. So that is contributing on an emotional level, a practical level, and actually a financial level. So it's really cool when kids see how they can contribute. But equally, I think it's really important that they see how much they take out of the pot, which I think is often surprising for them. So you tell me a little bit about how you sold this to your boys, because there is a little bit of selling to them, because
Yeah.
they might not do anything at the moment and still are taking a lot out of the pot. So what is it? How did you sell it to your boys?
Yeah, it's exactly as you've said. It's about putting in if you want to take out. So if you want to go to the cinema with your friends, I had this the other week. One wanted to go off on a very expensive day out, first day out, and he chooses the most expensive day ever. He couldn't have just started with, a trip to
McDonald's.
Northwich. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was okay. You want that, and I'll transfer you the money, but I expect you to hoover, and I would like you to put your washing on, and I would like you to help me with the evening meal, to put that back. So you're putting back what you're taking out. Previous to that, I would honestly say they were all take, take, take.
Mm.
And that isn't a good position to be in, either time wise, or me running around ragged on a Sunday getting stressed, literally hoovering under their feet while they watch the F1. And you start to think to yourself, hang on a minute, we can pause the F1, we can take a break. It's only me that's running around. So now it's about something that you advised me, which is brilliant, is please, can I meet my friends? It's never a granted. It's never a given that I have the money to give him to meet his friends. Please, can I meet my friends? I would really like to meet my friends. And then there's a little bit of a putback. So I would like £20. Okay, in which case you earn your way around the house. But one of the interesting things that has really, really resonated with me through having known you, Ashley, is that helps us now, and that helps me in the house. And yes, as you've said, it frees us up. But think about in a couple of years' time when he goes to uni. what about his housemates? He'll have to do his own washing and he'll have to do the hoovering. And if someone's on an all-nighter trying to get an assignment in, maybe he's the one that goes to the shop and gets sandwiches and coffees to try and, keep everyone going through an all-nighter. So actually, everything I do is it does benefit us now, but I'm not, living in some kind of, prison where they're never going to leave. It's actually just setting them up for their own relationships in the future. That's what you do. Yeah, if you want a lift at night to the pub or whatever, there's got to be something in return in this pot. The pot cannot just sit there empty, because that it just isn't a healthy way to be. So yeah, two things: one, it frees us up now, but also we're only training them for the future.
Yeah, what I like to call, and there's lots of things that you can do for this, but I like to call it future proofing our kids, because I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I met my hubby when we were quite young, and when we first well, actually, I was going to say when we first moved in, but I remember before that, kind of being, late teens, his mom and dad were going away, and they were like, do you want to come and stay over and look after the boys? Because there was 3 boys. And I was like, what? What the what now? And I'd grown up in a house where my dad did the ironing. He would do washing and ironing. My mum would do the cleaning. We'd all chip in on a Sunday and do various different things. And she said, yeah, because I used to have my own room at their house. And she said, yeah, why don't you come and stay over? And would you do the washing for the boys? And my boyfriend, my husband, which is now, was the middle one. So the older guy didn't even know how to use the washing machine. And then when we moved in together, kind of in our 20s, he didn't realize that the toilet had to be cleaned. He thought that flush did it, and when you're like, what? Like, how is that, how does that happen? And I, like you, was brought up with a sister. So we didn't really have boys. Everybody just chipped in. And to be fair, when he would come round to my house, and if it was a Sunday, he would have to chip in and clean the front door, wipe over the front door or something like that, something random. So yeah, I think the future proofing is really good. I think the family pot, the way I always think about it, and it was one of the things that I'd come up with for the main carers, the mums, the main caregiver in the household, because there's usually always one that, there's one that usually works quite a lot, and if you're either that single mum or that single carer, or you're in a partnership where one is going out to work or one is maybe working longer hours than the other. And when you're, not got kids, you kind of often do it where whoever gets in earliest makes dinner, but when you've got kids, somebody's got to be home to supervise, to make that dinner, to do all that. And actually the family pot kind of, for me, came out of a need to relieve mums and those main caregivers from some of that time constraint, and some of that, at the end of the day, having nothing left to give, because I've had parents where they kind of sit down at 7 o'clock and they're either asleep or they've just got nothing left to give the kids. And it's like, okay, why have you not? Okay, let's have a look at that. And actually, the family pot really helps free up some time. I think for me as a mom, it definitely does. But it also, that what I call capacity or resource to be able to give the kids something as well, because you don't want to be the only one running around like a headless chicken, and then the kids go, oh, can we watch a movie? And you fall asleep. Or can we play, a game? No, I haven't got it in me, so it that's a nice side effect. But also the other side of that is that not only are we future proofing the kids and teaching them skills and things like that, but it's that not taking for granted. Suddenly they have an insight in what it takes to make dinner, what it takes to, strip the beds, what it takes to, where the money's coming or where the money's going, because they've got more of a realistic view of it instead of just, the back of mum and dad.
It is. It's so, and just recently, obviously the cosy lives, everything's going up, isn't it? The food's going up. And when I take mine around the supermarket, I know it's a very cliche thing, let them add it up as they go round. But actually, they've noticed how much we're spending and how much, oh, they really wanted that chocolate bar, but actually that's gone up. And if we go to that shop, it's cheaper in there. So actually, it's again future proofing, but also giving them that choice to say, I didn't realize it was that expensive. Why don't I just hold off that and I go somewhere else later where I know it's cheaper? Because obviously, yourself, you go to different shops and even, washing powders, just, anything from £2 right up to £20, depending on where you shop. So they're becoming quite savvy in that. But it's like going back to my example of if I'm making a Sunday dinner and we have run out of gravy, it's not just the fact that I have to go to the shop and get it. I have to stop what I'm doing, turn everything off, get my shoes on, perhaps even get changed. Maybe at this point I'm in, yoga pants and a t-shirt. So I have to, put a coat on. The dog will want to come with me and then walk to the shop, then it's just amazing how much that little gesture of them going actually really does take all of that off you and isn't just getting the gravy, it's freeing you up, like you said, to do other things. And it isn't just the hoovering, it's while they're hoovering, I'll be doing something else. So it
And
is just,
yeah, do you know what? Yeah, for me as well, it's really lovely to hear you say that, because it shows that there's that two-way gratitude. It's not just them appreciating the stuff that you do on a regular basis and they're helping out today, but actually you appreciating that will probably take, even though the shop's next door, probably take you a good 20 minutes. And that's if you don't get caught talking to someone like, if I do. And so everything stops and they're not contributing. And actually, I think the other thing for that as well is that I think when we are the ones who does the most in the house, and I don't just mean the housework, the practical stuff, but actually the sorting out, the organizing. So one of the things that I have started to get my eldest to do is emails. I don't mean my work emails, but for instance, they've ordered something, it needs returning. Okay, have a look how you return that and print off the return slip and get that parceled up, and can you take it to the post office? And they think that's cool. They're quite happy to do that. Whereas for me, that's a chore. It's on my list. I've got it on my head for 2 days until it's done, things like that, or the parcels hanging around until I can get out and do it. And it's just things like that they start to have that appreciation. But also I have that appreciation that, oh my God, they've just done it. It's amazing. So I think
yeah.
that's lovely that there's that two-way gratitude, as it were.
And it's such a simple thing. And, you think, why didn't I do this years ago? And I did, but it's only now that they're 12 and 15 that they really do get it. So although I've always said, look at the cost of that, look at the cost of that, they've not really got it. And I think because everything has shot up, we'll go into a shop and I'll say, right, my budget is X. So I'll tell you a good thing is the scan and shop. So
Yeah.
they're in charge of the scanner because they like doing that because it's a gun, of course.
Yeah.
And they like doing the packing. So they'll go around and my eldest will actually say, we need to stop now. We're at the budget. And I'll say, okay, well, let's put that back and let's just get that because we definitely need that. But that, whatever cat food can wait because I've got some cat food in or something. So actually they're really helping me, but also they're learning as well that, yeah, it just doesn't come for free. Nothing just, nothing just comes for free, even like hoovering. And they've asked for some friends over at the weekend. So we've said, okay, that's absolutely fine. Thank you for asking. But on Friday, I would like you to help me, clean the front room, clean the bathrooms, make sure everything's nice. And of course, the typical boy answer, well, that's a bit bad for me to say typical boy answer, but their boy answer is, well, it's not the Queen or the King or whatever. They're not visiting. Yeah, but they're coming to my house. I have to, I have to have it at some form of cleanliness or else, people are just going to not come again. So
And
it's
so important, Amy, what you're saying there, because, it isn't you can't have them over. It's can I have my friends over? And of course we want to encourage that, don't we? And I always say, like, my house is one of the houses that they all kind of mingle at and they congregate at. And I like that, and sometimes it's not always convenient, of course. Sometimes you think, oh my God, I've already got 2 teens. Why do I want to add another 4 to this? When you've had like a hard day at work, whatever. But actually, where they are, they feel trusted. Their friends then trust you. You get to know more about what's happening with your kids, I think, if their friends are happy to come round and stuff. And also get involved. My eldest had a friend over yesterday afternoon. I said, do you want to stay for your tea? She was sat around the table chit-chatting about her holiday, and it was so lovely because it was a country we hadn't been to. We found out stuff. It's somewhere we would like to go, but she was really excited to tell us. And it was just, I think inviting them over and having that is lovely. But actually, you have a certain standard because it is your home. You maybe wouldn't have cleaned the bathrooms till, say, Sunday or next week or whatever. And actually, hold on, if you want this, yeah, absolutely, but we need your help. I'm a big one. If you want a sleepover, absolutely, but you tidy your room, you change the beds, and I'll put the washing in and do all that. And it isn't, I'll never say, no, you can't, or not if you don't help me. It's not. And I think a lot of parents go, oh, but is it bribery? No, it's not. It's a negotiation. It's a two-way thing. And I think I've used this sentence with you before. When you've done that, then you can do that. Because actually what that's saying to the kids, what they hear is, they hear, oh, I want this. So then that bit of the sentence, actually, I get this done as fast as I can because then I can have what I want. Because actually our brain is set up to hear the last thing. So they'll do the first thing as fast as they can because they want that last thing. That's the lasting impression. Whereas actually, if we say, you're not doing that until this is done, that's completely opposite. And our brain doesn't take that well. So sometimes it's about how we do it. But I think the family part and having that negotiation, but also seeing how they take out over the week. So I'm a big one for on a Sunday sometimes, if we're sat around the table having dinner or lunch or something like that, I'll say, right, what have we got on this week? So my youngest has been at summer school this week. He's needed a lift to Warrington and back. And that's it's 10 hours over the week. It's twice a day, 10 hours over the week. That's a fair whack, apart from what it's cost us for him to go to summer school. This isn't me trying to work. He could stay at home because he's old enough and dad works from home most of the time. This is something he's chose to do. And actually, he has been really appreciative of that this week. And every night he's come home and gone, what do you need me to do? Is there anything you need me to do? I'm not saying he hasn't come in and sat on his PlayStation. Of course he has, but when I walk in, he'll go, what do you need me to do? And that is such a turnaround, from the usual of, can you do this? Oh, do I have to? So I think sometimes it's just the way that we talk about it.
It is, and it's been interesting seeing the reaction on my boys' faces. So, mum, can I have, or mum, can I do? And without me having to say anything, they automatically go, better go and clean my room. Better go and put the washing on. And they know what's coming. They know what's coming. They're so clever. They pick up on it. Yes, if I want that, I need to do that because mum can't take me to town. And also mum can't do my washing and do the other things that we wanted to do as well. So yeah, it's really lovely to sit back and watch. And Ashley, I always message you. In my head, I'm like, better tell Ashley. I better message her and tell her. You're probably bored of hearing them.
Oh, never, because often I do, I might get the odd message, but often the work is kind of done, and it's not until they come against like a crisis or something that they get back in touch and they go, oh, that thing that was really good, but now the other one started or something else has happened. So I don't often get that, and it's so lovely. And it's part of me doing the podcast as well, is to open that up for others, that they can comment under it, or they can ask me questions, or they can go, Ashley, I'm really stuck with this, and I'll answer it on a podcast, you know. So it's kind of cool. It's like a way of getting free advice out there for them. So as we just finish up, Amy, I wanted to ask you, how has this gone over with the big guy in your life? How's this gone over with the hubby? Because I know when I started to implement this, I was very, I discussed it with the hubby first. We'd sat and talked about expectations, the two of us, and then we talked about, round the table with the kids. So, but at first it was a little bit like, so I know my hubby quite often, he will get up and I'll do I usually get up earlier, do loads of things, and then I'll start doing some work, and I can hear him emptying the dishwasher. And now he doesn't do that as much because obviously the kids do it, whereas he would just like plod and get it done. So it was not easy for mine. He thought it was a fab idea, but also I think he kind of realized that he probably doesn't take out of the pot as much as, say, us, the rest of us in the family. But actually, and that started for him to do other things. So he now goes to the driving range, which is him getting some headspace and things like that, which has been really good for him. But also as well, I think he financially contributes. So that's kind of his tick, whereas actually it isn't now, if that makes sense. So how did it go with your other half?
Well, I think it's a quite a loaded and in-depth question, of which I've got many answers for, but keeping it brief. I think we've gone from the youngest being in year 6 to going to year 7. In year 6, it was more reprimand. It was more, you've done something naughty, you're having your phone taken off you and your internet taken off you. Whereas nowadays, I think the latest advice you gave me was let them choose their own consequences. So actually, our parenting style has completely changed. So instead of saying you've done something that's annoyed me, or you've done something that's quite frankly, rude or sworn or whatever, instead of going up to his room and confiscating his phone and his whatever else, we now say, you've done wrong. What's your consequence? So actually, that's been a big change. So the parenting style. And also when my boys, one's dusting round, one's hoovering, my husband then feels a little bit obliged to get stuck in. What can I do? What can I do? I'm like, yeah, this is great. I can really go and, sit down and catch up on my TV now, or go for a walk, or take the dog out or something. So I think it's been a drastic change, but one that has been well needed, particularly as my boys change. They're young men. They're not babies anymore, and even though I sometimes treat them like that, they're not. They're young people. They can go out in the community. They've got money in the bank. They've got bank accounts. These are the children of the future. And it sounds real cliche, but it is. And I have to treat them that way. I have to treat them that they know what they're doing and that they are independent adults. They're only young adults, but they are still very, very clever and very switched on. So I think in a nutshell, I think it's changed, but in a good way.
That's lovely to hear. And I think also what I really love about the family pot thing, and you putting it into practice the way it's worked for your boys, is that actually it sounds like there's respect there, like a mutual respect. These are young men. Yes, we do want to treat them like kids at times and babies, and there are times that we have to step in and just make those decisions, and say, no, actually you can't do that, and stuff. But actually the fact that you're treating them like young adults means that they, I'm a big believer that children either raise themselves to your expectations or lower themselves to your expectations. Because you've suddenly almost like thrown down the gauntlet, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this family pot. If you want something out, you've got to put something in. It feels like you've treated them with respect, but also you they can do it. You've got the confidence in them, and they're kind of raised themselves up for that. And I love that, because it's a real mutual, respect. They probably respect you more because they know how hard you have worked and do work. And also, they're willing to to help out. And I just love it. It sounds like it's worked really well for you guys. Is there anything that you think like hasn't worked so well, or maybe even you've kind of tweaked it as you've gone?
I think I'm constantly tweaking things, constantly, just daily, using something as a principle, but then using it to that particular child or that particular moment or that particular what they've done. How bad is it? How bad is the consequence? The family pot thing again. If they want to go to the shop for a chocolate bar, I now keep a little pot of change by the front door. So all your loose change, your pounds and things like that, so that they can just go instead of taking my card all the time.
Yeah.
I can't say anything's not changed or not worked. But again, I think it all just depends on the situation, because another thing that you've very kindly, imparted on me is, once the youngest is in a meltdown and you can see he's in a meltdown, I'm not going to talk to him. So again, I'm to walk away, he's to go and chill out, maybe in half an hour's time, then do it. So it is just constantly learning about the child, the environment. Have they eaten? Are they tired? Are they too hot? Are they coming down with something? And it really is that even at 12 and 15, I'm still taking every day as it comes, thinking, I hope and pray I get through
Yeah.
it.
And you will, and you have. And I think the biggest thing, massive, massive pat on the back and brownie points for you, Amy, and the hubby, obviously, is your thirst to always constantly want to do better for your boys. And actually, my biggest mantra is we only have to do this right 30% of the time. Yes, we will lose our cool. Yeah. And if we do, then make that repair, show them that, model that behavior, yes, I've messed up or whatever. But actually, we're not going to we're human beings. And I think we're wired for hard things, which I think we forget sometimes. But actually, the thirst that you have to constantly adapt for your boys and go, am I doing this right? And actually, it feels now, from when I met you like a couple of years ago, and now you're such a confident parent and go, okay, I don't get it right all the time, but you know what? We'll try again tomorrow. And you've just come so far with your boys. And you can tell because, when you used to talk about the boys and in a parenting situation, it would be like, oh, I'm finding this really hard. I don't know what to do. Whereas now you glow about them because you're proud of how far they've come. But I just want to take this moment and say, Amy, you have done this. You have come this far.
Thank you.
And you have, honestly, I'm really proud.
Thank you. Oh God, that means a lot. And obviously every minute is different and every minute does not feel like that, yet there are more moments of feeling proud of them now than there was a couple of years ago when, things were just, I don't know, just change with them. You think you've got it sorted and then all of a sudden they're out of nappies or they're walking and you think, oh, I've just got that sorted, and now they're on to another phase. They can't just stay the same all the time.
No, and it does change, when your eldest goes off to uni and things like that, your relationship will change again. But it is about being open and adapting and meeting them where they're at, which I think you have shown that in absolute bucketfuls, where you'll meet them where they're at, even if, like you say, the youngest is having a meltdown. Okay, let him calm down. When he's ready, we'll get back to it. And and yeah, you've just done that. Honestly, amazing. So as much as you talk about your boys now with pride and how far they've come, you absolutely need to pat yourself on the back for the work that you've done to create these wonderful young men. And I can say that because I know them as well. So, and I've seen them, and they are wonderful young men, and will make lovely partners as well, because they're not going to be the likes of, oh, I didn't know you had to change the bed or clean the toilet or hoover the floor or whatever.
Can you imagine? I don't want to be helicoptering them when they're 30 and the parent in the with their other half.
Exactly.
But honestly, same back to you, Ashley. I mean, your support and all your literature that you read is just music to my ears. It really sits well, and you're just so you're relatable, easy to get on with. you know, I know that I can turn to you in any situation. So again, huge thanks to you as well.
You're welcome, and thank you for joining us, which is tonight for us. But wherever, you know, thank you for joining us tonight, listening, telling us your story, telling us about your boys and how far you've all come as a family, and especially using the family part. I love to hear that kind of practical advice being used out there, because it's no good me just telling my story, or you know, or even clients telling client stories, but actually listening to a parent who's used it and stuff is brilliant. And you have been brilliant to listen to, Amy, and I've, you know, learned things about you guys tonight that I didn't know, and so that's really lovely. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining us.
Really great to chat to you, Ashley. I loved it. Thank you so much again. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome anytime. And if you want to get their book, it is the guide, the parent's guide. I should have asked Amy to do this bit. The parent's guide to raising a resilient kid. You can get it on Amazon, or you can order it at your local independent bookshop, anywhere in the world as well, which is really cool. You can look at the Resilient Academy, which is our parents course there that helps you, just guide you through building resilience for your kids. And you can check out the socials. We're on Facebook, we're on Insta, The Resilient Kid, and obviously the podcast. Come back and listen again. So take care. Lots of love from our families to yours, and we'll speak to you again soon.